The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
Was there really any doubt ever? Hey, Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast.
Locked On they asked us over the course of the last month, 6 weeks or so, to put together our own personal rankings for who the best 100 players in the NBA are at this particular moment. Criteria was interesting. You had some various rankings from across the board, but it really was as ambiguous as possible. It's up to the beholder. It's, hey, who are your best 100 guys based off of like your own personal criteria? Long story short, Matt, the top player in the NBA by a significant margin was Denver Nuggets Nikola Jokic. Your thoughts, your take on him showing up at the top?
Play the trumpets, hit the music, let's go, party time. Jokic is acknowledged. Bend the knee. That should have been the title of this episode. Is bend the knee. Is that everyone acknowledges that Nikola Jokic is the greatest in the world. You can beat him in the playoffs. You can have your MVP season. You can win the title. Everyone knows Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. He is the best player in the world. For insight into how I do this. So if you've been following the show a long time, you know I like rating things on the 1 to 5 scale, 1 to 5 stars. And like, it's a really good metric, rubric rather, for evaluating things. And so what I do is I take every player and I grade them 1 to 5.
Sure.
And then I take all the 5s and I grade them 1 to 5. And then I take all the 5s and the 5s and I grade them all 1 to 5. And Jokic is a perfect 5-5-5. He is the only player on that tier. He's the only player on that level. Giannis Antetokounmpo is second. He is a 5-5-4. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a 5-5-3. So, like, Jokic, Shai, and Giannis are on a tier in the first ranking. They're on the same tier in the second ranking. They are not on the same tier in the third ranking. And that's where the differential comes in here. But it was not hard for me. I knew Jokic was going to be number one. And, Locked On is about true sports fans, real sports fans that do these shows every day, that cover these teams every day, that talk about them 365, 52 weeks out of the year. These hosts do content on the NBA.
Yeah.
And they all, not all of them, not unanimously, what we know of. We don't have the vote count yet, but the majority understands that the best player in Nuggets history, your favorite player, your franchise superstar, is the best in the world. He is the best player in the NBA. He is at the top of the league. No one has dethroned him. Jokic is the man.
He, I think, for me, has reached the best player in the world status back in, I want to say 2022, when he won his second MVP award. I think it was fair to have some questions. 2021, Giannis won it. Giannis won the title with Milwaukee that year. He was the best player in the world at that point. Even though Jokic won the MVP, it was pretty clear that he had earned that right at that particular point. But over the course of the last 4 years, I don't think that there's a real tangible argument for anybody else to be the best player in the world. The consistency that Jokic brings at the top has been tremendous. It is one of the single most dominant 5-year runs that we've seen from an individual player over the course of these last 5 years. And I do think that he is head and shoulders above the rest right now. If you want to have somebody else at the top, that's fine. But I just think that you would be wrong at this point.
If you were tasked with doing so, who would be the person that you would say?
Like who would be better than him?
Yeah.
I think so.
Or equal to him.
I had Shea as the second best player in the world. I had Giannis at 3.
You really don't
And
like
I'm yeah, I just need to see it for a full season from Giannis again in order to put him back up in that upper like the top of the top echelon. He's still in a tier with those other guys, and I think it's Giannis and Shea in a tier, and then the rest of the league.
I can't put Giannis on Jokic's same tier. Like, I can't have him even. I can't have him equal and just be like, but I listed Jokic 1.
Sure.
I can't do that because of the efficiency that Jokic has got. Like, Jokic is elite from mid-range, and he shot better than 40% from 3 last season, and like, he is this incredible passer. I do think that Giannis is underrated at this point. I think that the Bucks' decline has hid. If you look at these seasons and you watch these games, like, Giannis is incredible, and he's incredible all the time. Now, like, he's not playing as much as Jokic, and again, like, Jokic's better, right? But like, I as much as I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is awesome and the OKC Thunder are great, I don't think Shai's on that level. I put him third because, like, look, the dude won MVP and Finals MVP in the same season.
Sure,
led the league in scoring. Like, yes, but like, Giannis is an incredible defender, and he's incredible downhill. Like, you can make the case for Giannis, and I'll be like, I can't get there, but I get it.
Yeah,
there's nobody else that I could be like. I can't even be like, I get it. I can't get it with Luka. I can't get it with Shai. I can't get it with anybody else. Like, Giannis is the only one where I'm like, you're forgiving a little bit too much here of the other things, but I get it.
Yeah, there's part of me that thinks, and like, look, we can get into how long we think Jokic can hold the crown, like what he has to do. Is anybody else going to surpass him at any point over the course of the next 2, 3, 4 years or so? But it does feel like there's a tier break right now. It does feel like, despite the fact that Jokic isn't going to win every award and win every championship over the course of these last few years, he has been in that upper echelon where he's been deserving of it. And to say that about anybody else, and you just can't really make that credible argument for anybody else over the course of a 5-year span. And so nobody's taken it from him. And one of the arguments is that Shai beat him in the playoffs. Shai won a championship. Shai won an MVP. And there's a reason for that. It's not just because of the infrastructure of his teammates. It's because he is also individually great. And I kind of feel like a lot of Nuggets fans don't like that take, if I'm being honest. There's a lot of pushback on that when it comes to individual versus team level greatness. But I do think that, like, Shai has proven it at this point. Like, back in, what was it, 2021, 22, he was averaging 30 plus then. Like, he's been incredible for a long time.
I mean, look, he's gotten buckets, right?
Multiple steals a game, like,
yeah,
rotational rim protector, things like that.
Like, plus he's not an elite rim protector. That's not true.
No, he rotates really well as a guard.
Yeah, like, he's a good defender. Like, he's a better defender than Yoke.
Yeah.
But, like, I have a hard time just because it's like Shai's a very archaic example of, like, who the best player in the world is. Not archaic, but, like, a little outdated. Like, we should understand
traditional for sure. Because,
we should understand now. Having watched LeBron, watch Yoke, like, we should understand, like, there are levels to this.
Yeah.
Like, there's levels to, like, again, I will say the words again. How do you shape the game? And I don't think Shai shapes it. And doesn't matter. He won Finals MVP and MVP. Yeah. He was incredible. I wrote thousands of words on how great Shai is. Shai's awesome. He's incredible. But, like, there are levels to this. And I am a little surprised you had him second. Unless it's more of about how little you think of Giannis and Luka, which I would understand.
I mean, Luka I have fourth. Giannis I have third. We should go through our top 10 on the other side. I think that'll be a fun kind of breakdown of our particular differences. But no, I think they're in the same tier, Giannis and Shai. I just happen to prefer one style over the other.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
Locked On's NBA Top 100 Players list is here. 5 Cavs are on the list.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Locked On today released our NBA Top 100 Players list, where we put together all of the NBA hosts, or at least all of the hosts were instructed to. I don't know how many ballots exactly were turned in, but this was a pretty wide-ranging exercise. A lot of people participated in this. Of course, I participated in this as well. Had several episodes either late July or early August, don't remember the exact time frame, where I talked through some of my decisions. I talked through where I had guys on the Cavaliers roster as far as who I thought belonged in the top 100 in the NBA, who I didn't think belonged. Well, now we have results. And 5 members of the Cleveland Cavaliers were voted as one of the top 100 players in the NBA for this upcoming season. And those 5 players are the 5 players that you would expect them to be. We've got Donovan Mitchell, we have Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, and DeAndre Hunter. Those 5 all made the top 100. That is the order in which they were put in there. Not necessarily something that I completely agree with, and we will talk about that. But I want to start with Donovan Mitchell because he was, as you might imagine, the highest ranked member of the Cavs in the NBA's top 100 for Locked On. Donovan Mitchell is 9th in our list. He is behind some guys he should be behind. Nikola Jokic, to no surprise, is Locked On's number 1 player. That is where I voted him. I would be surprised if he was not unanimously voted our top 100 or our top player. I don't know that. I've not seen every single ballot, but I'd be surprised if anyone voted anyone else number 1 in the NBA. If they did, they were wrong. But Nikola Jokic, the number 1 player. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the number 2 player. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the number 3 player. No disagreements there. Luka Doncic, the number 4 player. Again, no disagreement. Now is where we get to the range where I think Donovan Mitchell belongs. And that top 4, I think, is pretty set in stone. Maybe you can quibble with, should Giannis be number 2? Should Luka be number 3? Like that debate is there. That's not the debate we're going to have on this podcast episode. I'm sure Locked On Lakers and Locked On Bucks and Locked On Thunder will talk about all of that stuff, but that's not what we're going to do here at Locked On Cavs. So when I did my voting, and I went very in depth on this in the episodes where I talked about this, I put Donovan Mitchell number 5, which admittedly is a little bit high for, he's number 9. Number 5 is certainly on the high end. There's no way anybody voted him ahead of number 5. I wouldn't be surprised if other people maybe got there. 5 was certainly on the high end, though. Steph Curry was number 5. And Steph is, of course, the greatest shooter of all time, one of the best players in NBA history. I do not think there are only 4 players in the NBA better than him right now. In fact, I think Donovan Mitchell right now is better than Steph Curry at this point. Number 6 was Anthony Edwards. I think it's very close between Anthony Edwards and Donovan Mitchell. I would very slightly take Donovan. I think a year from now, we're probably talking more about, is Anthony Edwards breaking down the door to be in that number 4 spot or number 5 spot? But right now, I've got Donovan by a little bit. Number 7 was Victor Wembanyama. And this is the one that I think I most disagree with, because Victor has not, he's done a lot of really good things, but the sample size for him is so small. I think we all expect at some point Victor Wembanyama will get to maybe best player in the world, consensus top 5 player in the world. Like, those are places I think we all expect him to get to. but he's not there yet. He's not the number 7 player in basketball yet. I think that this is certainly quite a bit of a projection. And part of this is trying to project where guys are going to be this season and what their seasons are going to be like. But I think that this is too high for Victor Wembanyama. When I did my vote, I'm very high on Victor Wembanyama. I had him 12th, but that is certainly in that next tier of player. I think that this is a little too close to the top 5 for somebody who has not made an all-NBA team. He would have this year, but he didn't. He only played 50 games. Had he played a full season last year, maybe this is a different conversation. But because he's played 1.5 seasons of basketball where he has, played less than 150 games in his career by quite a few. I don't have the exact number of games that he's played off the top of my head, but I think that's a little bit high for Victor Wembanyama. That is probably the one that I disagree with the most. Jalen Brunson was number 8. Again, I think it's very, very close between he and Donovan Mitchell. I put Donovan 1 spot ahead of Jalen Brunson in my top 100, but Jalen Brunson being 1 spot ahead of Donovan Mitchell overall, I just really don't think there's a big gripe with. So I do think Donovan should have been a little higher, but I think he's in the right tier. And that's the thing to me that ultimately should matter the most, is that he is in the right tier of players. He is exactly where he should be. Maybe not the exact number, but he's in the conversation, I think, 5 through 9 or 10. Jason Tatum was number 10. Had he not torn his Achilles, I'd be very interested to see where he would be. I think I had him at number 11, and having that injury, I think, really complicated it for me and probably a lot of other people as well. Kevin Durant was number 11, again, taking Donovan Mitchell over him. LeBron James was number 12, which I think is probably pretty fair. The fact that he's at his age and still considered to be the 12th best player in basketball, I think is a wildly impressive thing. But the overarching point here is, since Donovan Mitchell arrived from the Utah Jazz just over 3 years ago at this point, he was acquired by the Cavs in early September. Since that date, Donovan Mitchell has played 3 seasons with the Cavs. He's made 2 All-NBA teams, one of them All-NBA second team his first year in Cleveland, and first team All-NBA this past season. He had 1 year that was a little interrupted by injuries. He did not reach that 65-game requirement, but when he was healthy, he was a top 10 player. And Donovan Mitchell has been, throughout his entire tenure with the Cleveland Cavaliers, a top 10 player in basketball. That's what he's been. That is what I expect him to continue to be moving forward. I don't know how much longer. I think when we do this list next year, we'll still be talking about Donovan Mitchell as a top 10 player. 2 years from now, I'm not sure that we will, but I don't think that he's going to have some dramatic fall off in the very near future. So I do think it's important to look at this list. Remember, Donovan has been really, really great. And the Cavs are really, really good right now and a championship contender for a lot of reasons. But you cannot be a championship contender, in my opinion, without having somebody in this top 10. I mentioned at the end of the last segment, Evan Mobley was ranked the number 16 player in the NBA for this upcoming season. I voted Evan at number 15 in my personal top 100. So this is the one that is very, very close. And I really can't push back too much. So he is, as we mentioned, LeBron James at number 12. Tyrese Halliburton was number 13. I think a very tricky one to rank given his Achilles injury, the fact that he will not play this year. I think that certainly complicates things quite a bit. Anthony Davis, the number 14 player in the NBA for this season. I had him at number 14, 1 spot ahead of Evan. And the guy that is ahead of Evan, and I really can't push back on this too much, but the guy that is ahead of Evan that I did not have ahead of Evan is Cade Cunningham. Cade is at number 15, coming off an all-NBA season of his own, coming off getting MVP votes for the very first time in his career, the same way that Evan Mobley also got MVP votes for the first time in his career this past season. And I think that this is the exact ballpark Evan should be in. I think that Evan is going to take another step forward offensively this year. He's going to be the anchor of a championship caliber defense. He's going to be a focal point of a championship caliber offense. Maybe it's not going to be the best offense in NBA history, the way it was flirting with last year, but they're going to be very, very good offensively again. And I just look at what he has done throughout the first few seasons of his career. And yes, he's only made one all-star team. And yes, he's only made one second team all-NBA. But I think those are going to be constants moving forward. I think Evan is going to continue to be the guy that he was during this season, where he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, not just defensively, but on both ends of the floor. I do believe that his three-point volume is going to go up a little bit more. I think we're going to see a bit of an uptick there. And I just think he's going to be a guy that is going to be so difficult for opposing teams to stop night in and night out. And I do think that 1 year from now, the conversation that I will be really interested in, because if you can't tell, I am a believer in Evan Mobley. I think he's going to continue to be awesome. Does Evan Mobley belong in the top 10 a year from now? That, to me, is one of the questions that could define this Cavs season. And I will probably do an episode maybe later this week, maybe early next week, on questions that will define the Cavs season. But that is one of them to me, because he very clearly has all of the skills that are needed to have that sort of performance, to have that sort of impact on the Cavs or across the NBA. I look at what he did this past year, and as I mentioned, second team All-NBA, defensive player of the year. And I just think, okay, maybe that's not the floor for him, because as we have seen, injuries happen, but I think the ceiling for him is so high. I'm not going to sit here and say I expect Evan Mobley to be somebody that is in the top 5 next year or in the first team All-NBA ranks next year. But I also think that's coming. Like, I think that is going to be sooner than later. I think next year is probably going to be Evan Mobley talking about second team All-NBA. Maybe he gets some first team All-NBA votes. Maybe he picks up more than just one 5th place MVP vote this upcoming season. I think all of those things are in play for Evan Mobley. So I think having him number 16 overall is a fairly appropriate place for him to be. Now, a few guys that he is ahead of that I certainly do agree with. Kawhi Leonard comes in at number 17. He is actually, this is kind of funny because Cade Cunningham, I had at number 19. I had him a few spots behind Evan Mobley, who I had at number 15. But the guys I had immediately behind Evan Mobley were Kawhi Leonard, Devin Booker, and Jalen Williams. And the guys that are immediately behind Evan Mobley in our top 100, Kawhi Leonard, Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, and Jalen Williams. Now, Karl Anthony Towns, I had a little bit lower down the list. I had him at 23. The NBA top 100 list has him at number 19. Like, that's not a crazy difference. But I think that this is the kind of player that he's with right now. And Kawhi Leonard, of course, has been in the news quite a bit with the controversy going on with the Los Angeles Clippers and whether or not they circumvented the salary cap in order to have Kawhi Leonard there, which is a fascinating conversation and something I have very much wanted to talk about and probably will be talking about at some point. But I think that right now, Evan's better than those guys. And Jalen Williams is maybe the one that I could really listen to an argument here for, that maybe because he's done it in the playoffs at the level that he's done it at. But right now, in terms of two-way impact, I look at that list of guys, and I even look at Cade Cunningham too. And Cade is awesome. And outside of Pistons fans, you're not going to find many people that appreciate and like Cade's game much more than I do. And it's not just because we have the same last name, but I look at this and say, Evan has done more than Cade. Evan has done enough to warrant being considered a top 15 player. I think it's appropriate being in this, again, kind of ballpark this tier. Like, the exact order, I don't know, is something that I can get all that fired up about. But I think that, yes, coming in number 16 means he's not considered a top 15 player in basketball, which is kind of the thing that I disagree with, just the notion of that. And of course, you do have to look at, well, it means there are 15 guys that are also really, really, really good. And it is a hard discussion to have, or a hard debate to have, like, who would you kick out? But Evan Mobley, to me, is going to be a perennial All-NBA player. The things that he can do on both ends of the floor are absolutely fantastic. And I look at that and say, to me, what he brings is top 15 in the NBA type of stuff. And I think that this season for Evan is only going to further solidify how the NBA world looks at Evan Mobley.
The NFL season is finally here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
OMP is a Memphis Grizzly. What does that mean for Jemai Mashak?
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast.
The first positive surprise of the program. The Memphis Grizzlies today, this is per Grizzlies PR, announced the team signed forward Olivier Maxence Prosper to a two-way contract per team policy. The details were not disclosed. Prosper, at 6'8", 215 pounds, has appeared in 92 games, 5 starts, and has averaged 3.5 points, 2.2 rebounds in 10 minutes in 2 seasons with the Dallas Mavericks since he was selected 24th overall in the 2023 NBA draft. This young man started all 25 of his G League appearances with the Texas Legends a couple of seasons ago, and he averaged 18.3 points, 7.7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal in about 33 minutes of play. He played 2 seasons at Marquette after beginning his collegiate season at Clemson, born in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. That is OMP. Interesting prospect to discuss because I think that he provides a lot of what the Memphis Grizzlies need at this time, especially in a two-way contracted player. If you watch him play, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm an OMP expert, but I am going to acknowledge that I've watched a lot of him because he played at Clemson. I remember him from Clemson, and then he went to Marquette. I remember him at Marquette. And then he played for the Dallas Mavericks. And I, through the draft process, watching his film, going into his time with the Mavs, obviously being in the Grizzlies division, I know a little bit about this young man in terms of how he plays the game. He struggles scoring the basketball. There's a reason why OMP is no longer a Dallas Maverick. There's a reason why this is a guy who the Mavericks were willing to move on from the way that they did. And there's a reason why this guy was signed to a two-way deal by the Grizzlies as opposed to filling some roster spot somewhere else in the NBA. He has flaws. And his major flaw is he can't put the ball in the hoop at the NBA level. When he has athletic advantages, when he has the capacity to cut to the rim and be a level above most of his competition, if not all of his competition, depending on the night in the G League, this is a dude that can play above the basket, get to the rim at will. He can score in those spaces. But when his athleticism is negated, when he's around other players that have comparable physical gifts, the basketball skill, there's a sizable gap. And because of that, obviously at the NBA level, the most talented and skilled players in the entire world, he is not able to stick in that space. He is still young, very worth a flyer as a bigger wing at 6'8", 215, a little bit smaller than G.G. Jackson for comparison's sake. And one thing with his frame and one thing with his athleticism that he does do well is he defends. He defends the bat. He defends on the point. He defends off the ball. He has a frame that most teams are looking for from a combo forward type of player. The 1.0 steals number in those 33 minutes of play a couple of years ago, that stands out to the Memphis Grizzlies, I'd imagine. The length that OMP is able to play with. That stands out for the Memphis Grizzlies, if I had to guess. And I think that this is a guy who a lot of NBA teams were intrigued by because of his size, because of his capacity to move, because of how he can do a variety of things on the basketball court that you can't teach, right? You can't teach being 6'8", 215 pounds. You can't teach the capacity to play both the 4 and the 3 and the 5 depending on the matchup and the scheme that you're lining up and running. And that is something that OMP is capable of. He has positional versatility and theory that most, if not all, players, or coaches, I should say, would want to try to maximize. However, when you struggle as mightily as OMP does from the field, a career 39.6% shooter overall, never mind three-point shooting. He's a career 26% three-point shooter. But when you're shooting less than 40% from the floor, period, that's simply not good enough. That's not an NBA player. That is not somebody that, if you have serious dreams of being a competitive basketball team, that you're able to trot out on a night in, night out basis. But you know what the Grizzlies are able to do with that two-way contract? They are able to give him opportunity to show that he is able to be more than a two-way contracted player. And I think that the reputation that the Memphis Grizzlies have built over the last couple of years, utilizing that two-way contract in such a way, is a reason why OMP made the choice that he did. Because apparently other teams were interested, understandably so. Again, you can't teach his size, you can't teach his frame, you can't teach his athleticism. The Grizzlies have taken two-way contracted players on numerous occasions and converted them to full roster members. Jay Huff, Scottie Pippen Jr., G.G. Jackson, Vince Williams Jr. The list goes on and on. There are numerous players that were put in those situations by Memphis that went on with opportunity and development to become fully rostered, guaranteed money members of the Memphis Grizzlies later on down the road. OMP certainly sees that track record of developmental success, plus combining that with the opportunity to show what you can do. You can develop all you want. You can dominate at the G League level, be an all G League competitor, but that's not the NBA. And if you don't have the capacity to take that ability to dominate at the developmental level and apply it to being an effective rotation player, we'll talk more about what that means with Santi Aldama to close out the show here in a little bit. But if you can't take that experience and mesh it and meld it into finding your niche in the NBA without being a complete liability on the other end, you're probably going to be playing overseas for a team in China or Europe at some point. And that's not to knock those guys. Obviously, that's a fine way to make a living. But all of these dudes have given their options, except for maybe Jonas Valanciunas, want to play in the NBA. A vast majority of them, at the very least. I'm sure if you gave OMP the choice, he would much rather have a guaranteed NBA contract playing among the other 420-some best players in the entire world, as opposed to the alternative. With the Grizzlies, he can combine the developmental track record and precedent with the opportunity to show what he can do. He'll have every chance to put that frame to work, to develop his basketball skill, and become, whether it's in Memphis or somewhere else, a fully rostered member of an NBA team again. So he sees what the Grizzlies are providing in terms of that opportunity, and he wants to make the most of it, I believe.